And we're live. Welcome to the Best in Slot Podcast, a Warcraft podcast by the community for the community. I'm your main host, Sparty. I'm here with my co-host, Midgettes. Midgettes, how are you this fine Monday evening?
Doing good, but it's a busy time of year, so I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off. How about you?
It's been busy, for sure. I was dealing with my 2-year-old being sick yesterday, and for those of you that are parents listening out there, you know exactly what it's like, and holy crap, is it rough. And now I've been sick all day myself today, as those germ factories spread to me, and I had to come home from work because I was that sick. So here we are doing
Please tell me it's not a man cold.
No, like it's an actual, I'm sick.
Oh, yes.
I'm pretty sure it's a man cold, and it might kill somebody if it infects it, so I should stay away from other people. Man colds are serious business.
Of course it is.
Well, this is episode 51. Today we'll be talking about the Feast of Winter Veil, holiday activities, and a bit about our last little Warcraft Q&A and what didn't make the patch notes about 8.1. So lots to talk about. Lots of fun things on the stream today. A couple little surprises, which you guys might like. Well, I might like. But yeah, you ready to get to it?
Let's get to it.
Okay, so Midget's favorite part of the stream.
My favorite part of the whole podcast.
Yes.
We always start with, yes.
Yes. Okay, so we're gonna have some Christmas themed jokes this week and hopefully next week. We'll see what happens. You ready?
As I will ever be.
What do you call people who are afraid of Santa Claus?
What?
Claustrophobic.
Okay, that one was pretty good.
I got her. I finally got her. Awesome. Yeah, that was a good joke. There was another one. Okay, let me give you another one here. Well, I'll save the other one for next week. It's not the good Christmas-related joke. Another really cool thing. So Blizzard is awesome and sent me a really cool package. They asked for my address. Hey,
what did they send you?
Well, I don't know. I have it here.
How come they send you gifts and not me? I want to talk to them.
Because they don't make gifts that small. Like maybe a keychain for you or something. So I've got this box here. I will try to open it. It's been FedExed over to me.
You're going to try to open it? Is the box smarter than you?
It might be, given today and how sick I am. How do I open this
Yes,
thing?
because you have the man cold. Yes.
Well, like when you got a man cold, things don't work out for you and brains don't function. I'm trying to open this and not cut myself with scissors.
I just can't. I'm just...
Oh.
Open the box.
I'm trying. There's more tape. The scissors away before I...
Okay, the way you have that scissors in the webcam is scary.
Ah. Very nice.
Don't hurt yourself, okay? We lost Sparty because he was opening a box from Blizzard.
Friggin' adorable. Friggin' adorable. Look at this thing.
Oh no, look at him.
And it's so fuzzy. It's a baby Yeti Whomper.
Oh my goodness. Evelyn is going to love that one.
There's a code pin, and there's a little letter.
What did they... Oh, that's so sweet.
Dear Sparty, this year the World of Warcraft team is supporting the efforts of Code.org with Whomper the charity pet. This little Yeti's helping Blizzard champion the efforts of students all over the world gain access to computer science in schools. Code.org has stemmed 28 million students already worldwide. There's many other words on this page, but I will... They say thank you, Blizz.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
You've read more than you normally do. Just so you know.
I'm gonna ruin it. This is a nice cards. Like this is a nice piece of paper too. They went all out for the piece of paper. I'm impressed.
I want to see the piece of paper.
Oh, here you go. It's got a little Whomper on it as well.
Oh, how awesome!
It is very cool. So yes, thank you, Blizz. That's awesome. I'm sure my daughter will love it. We need to. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
We have
I love
to
these
tweet
plushies.
a picture with the babies with Whomper.
Yes, that
awesome.
is a good idea. I will tweet it to our friends who sent it over because I'm pretty sure I know who sent it over.
In Christmas outfits, because I know they have to have Christmas.
Oh my God, Christmas outfits! It's a whole ordeal. Okay, we're moving on. We're moving on to podcast Warcraft related things. But you know what else is really cool? So.
What is really cool?
So we talked in previous podcasts of like keeping your team entertained and engaged and doing things other than just Warcraft. Because listen, guys, the truth is there's a lot of burnout out there, and I felt it. A lot of us have felt it. It sucks. Part of it is people aren't too happy with the game, and part of it is You need to keep players engaged. And so we brought back a Mafia. If you guys have ever done Mafia or Town of Salem or whatever variant, we do this on our forums. We have a lot of new people. I think we have like 3 returning people playing Mafia. But this is our 23rd game, I believe. So we've had a ton. We usually try to play them, when there's a lot of downtime and farm content, that kind of stuff. But people are really loving it. People are making, some hilarious mistakes. But at the same time, people are loving it. And Gunbusters, one of our hunters, was lynched. He was a
Oh
Alliance.
dear.
Yeah, he was the Alliance peasant. So I'm trying to make this really fun for these guys. And it's the Alliance Warfront. It's the battle for Darkshore. There's 4 Horde Mafia villains, whatever, infiltrating the Alliance Warfront. And poor little Gunbusters just got hit by a firing squad, bunch of gnomes
No.
to get to the
Gun-
kneecaps.
Not Gunny.
Poor
That's
Gunny,
just
poor Gunny buddy.
sad. Well, I liked the start of it because it had Morton Salt in it, so
Yes.
I was all over it. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
So,
I wanted to give him, something fun and keep everybody involved, so it was good. But there's also other sad news, right? So here's the storm, the announcement. Have you seen this one?
yes, I did,
So
and I was really sad to hear it, and because they're just going to sort of keep it status quo, and
mhm.
they're not going to do their competitions and their esports with it, right?
Yeah, so Here's the Storm has been out for a few years. It tried to really broach into the MOBA scene and the esports scene with varied success. I would say they were super successful with how much they did and how much they expanded. That being said, though, it is a business, and if it's not bringing in the money that say Overwatch League is or some of those other things are, well then it's probably not what's best for Blizzard, and they'll go as far as they can, and they'll leave it running sort of like Diablo. That being said, I mean, I think the way they communicated these things, which I guess is the theme of our podcast, might have been pretty poor. But on the flip side, like I've been hearing people say, okay, they communicated really poorly through social media, whatever. I'm not privy to what was going on the inside, and I don't know what they had said at BlizzCon regarding Here's the Storm. But how else do you tell people? I mean, I guess you could just mass email everybody at once, all the leagues and everybody else, and say you're going to stop. Because if you tell like one, I don't know, you tell Cloud9, right, one of the major teams, or one of the Method teams, someone's going to leak it, right? Like someone's going to leak this stuff. So how else do you fairly get this across without guaranteeing, no leaks? I don't know. I don't know if there's a better way to do it. That being said, I have sick brain, so my brain not functions so well. But I don't know.
Yeah, does it breathe?
Sometimes.
I think it was a shock to people,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry to see that Heroes of the Dorm is going, because I had a
Yeah.
lot of fun watching it, even though I didn't really. HOTS wasn't a game that I took a lot of love for. I got in there once to get a mount.
Mhm.
And the fact that they're going to maintain it, and they said they would still be doing holiday events and things of that nature. It sounds like and they're moving people away from it. So they're
That's the
moving
thing.
their people to some other projects that we don't know about, and then to other areas of the Blizzard family. And
Yeah.
I know there was so we'll see what they do with it, but it was sad news, and of course anytime it's around the holidays it makes it sadder.
For sure, but at the same time, these people. Okay, so the Blizzard employees, out of fairness, are not losing their jobs, right? They're being shuffled around. It could mean really good things for Warcraft, because some of these senior developers and senior designers are moving over to the Warcraft team or other, projects. It does suck for everyone else that was impacted for in the Heroes family, whether it be the coaches, the players, everybody. And the esports scene rather has been growing, but I'm sure Blizzard was kicking themselves for not jumping on that Dota train a lot earlier when they could have. Anyway.
Exactly. But onto and it did touch on the communication theme, and we're going to touch on that. I think in some ways, no matter how they would have handled it, it would have been received poorly,
Yep.
and they encounter that whether it's in game or whatnot. And those are some of the conversations we're going to have later in the podcast.
For sure.
But let's move on to some happier news, because the Feast of the Winter Veil started on Sunday. So this is one of my favorite times of year. You want to know why?
Why?
Because in every city there's a place to go become a gnome.
Oh,
In a
little gnome
Santa
transmogrifiers.
In a Santa suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, I like doing that. I don't know. I'm thinking like back to 12 years ago. I used to use that little gnome thing outside Ironforge, and we would have little gnome races and like gnome battles, and it was awesome. I don't know. 12 years later,
Well,
doesn't
and
have the
we've
same
had
allure.
some Zeros to Heroes events where we've all been gnomes and
Yes, for sure.
dueled as gnomes and things like that. So had snowball fights. We do all kinds of fun things.
Mm-hmm.
But this year there's a new toy. It's an Alliance and Horde armor set that matches last year's toy weapon set. So we have a full set now.
Interesting. I wonder if that was planned over 2 years.
You never know. But we
But
now have an Alliance cape. The cooldown is reduced during the Feast of Winter Veil.
wait,
And
wait,
then
it's,
I
it's
believe
just a
it's an
cape? I thought it's a
hour.
full set of armor.
No, it's a cape and a helm. So you have a cape and a helm and a sword and a
What?
shield.
So
What?
for Christmas, you're giving me a pair of shoelaces without the shoes. Like what do you want me to do with this? Like I, yeah, I'm not playing Mafia. I mean, all I've got is shoelaces.
Do you have any gnomes in your Mafia game?
We have Aloria.
Okay. Be nice to the gnome.
Yeah, well, I'm running Mafia, so they have to be nice to me. Yeah,
Well,
yeah, I was hoping
go
it'd be a
ahead.
better present, but one of the best presents is the red wooden sled. So those of you that are listening, DJs, Zeros to Heroes, whoever, you must get this sled because you're gonna need it in Survivor events, in Winter Veil events. You're gonna need it for everything. It is awesome. It is very good.
Okay, well, where do I get it?
You get it from Winter Veil, obviously, this holiday, and it's one of the presents under the tree, right? Hopefully, am I right there?
Well, no, not it. It can be. So the year it came out, I believe, was 2015.
Yep.
And then in 2016, it moved to one of the other presents. And it can randomly drop in one of the others, but your best way of getting it is to do the daily where you kill the Abomino Green.
The Grinch.
And you save medicine. You save medicine.
Yes.
That's the important part.
Must save medicine.
And
New War
it
Chief.
drops from the. You can also get the minion of Grumpus mount if you don't have that as well.
Yeah, I remember farming a lot of grumpuses and snowballs and looking through all that yellow snow and yeah, fun times.
Well, and we're going to have some ZTH festivities next Saturday. Unfortunately, we couldn't schedule it when you could be there, and I'm really sad.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody when I was talking about it. I said one of the fun for me in the event is not only the people having fun, but you and I putting those together is some of my fondest memories. So I'm really,
for sure.
It's really hard for me with you being busier to try to put this stuff together and not wanting to put pressure on you and say, I really want you there.
Yeah, and it's rough because like my family's flying in this Friday, and yeah, it's tough. It's tough to because it's 21st. Yeah, they fly in that night. So I imagine we'll be doing stuff all day that Saturday. But we'll be doing other stuff. Filter Veil ends January 2nd, so I'll try to put something together for the Zeros to Heroes and DJ group and the stream viewers because everybody wants to do fun Winter Veil stuff, right? Like I was testing an event earlier today, the a really fun penguin race thing that we're looking at doing. So we've got some surprises, some new events. It'll be some fun stuff.
Well, and we're going to also do some fun stuff this week. Now, we're still working on that, and we'll put out tidbits throughout the week. But we're still going to have fun. But we will miss you. So I wanted you to know that.
Well, they better have fun, or else. That's my directive.
Better have fun, or else Sparty's going to come after him. Speaking of fun,
yeah.
Did you see that the Hive Mind mount was found?
Yeah, so this was really cool and really exciting. I was living vicariously through Celestalon. So this was Celestalon's last Warcraft project. Really cool. I haven't gone through the entire guide. I'm looking forward to doing it, unlike the stupid Lucid Nightmare puzzle thing. So hopefully I'll have.
I enjoyed watching you do the puzzle thing.
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, I would do it again. I don't know. I feel I've enjoyed it looking back to it, but I also might have blocked out the pain from doing that one. Anyway, so Hive Mind, it's a really cool mount where you do with a group of friends, and it's a multi-person capability special perk for your Hive Mind group. This is the way it's been explained. You complete it with 5 different people, and then you link with a Hive Mind. So the way it works is you're only supposed to be linked to those 5 people. But if you want to link to other people, just complete it again. Currently, I believe there's a bug where your alts can mount and you can mount other people's, but that apparently is not intended, so that may be fixed. The way I've heard is it's supposed to be the same 5 people potentially. That being said, though, like this could be a really OP mount for Mythic Pluses or World Questing. Could you imagine? Like everybody jumps in a mount
Oh
and
yeah,
like
and run, on the mythics that you're able to mount on. Absolutely.
yeah.
And it'd be interesting to see, because of course that little bit of information wasn't in the patch notes either.
Mm.
Just a little
Yeah.
bit of sarcasm, you know.
Yeah, I mean, with this one though, I don't know how much they can, because I guess they could say, yeah, this is a secret mount, but this is how it works. I don't know. I guess the clarification is better, but it could have been better as well in terms of how exactly it works and how the move speed works. And you have people selling this mount and not telling other people, well, you can't share with other people unless it's the original people that you get into it, right? So
They can sell the mount. Oh, I don't like that.
yeah, so people have been walking through the whole set of series of quests, I think for like 250,000 or 300,000 gold, to get it done. So once,
Gotcha.
yeah, I want to do this with Drea, so she has that mount, and then it links up. But it'd be really cool because you have the stirrups or whatever they are, right, or the hoof plates, where you can interact with things mounted. Like that might make things easy, and just you run around interacting with things.
Well,
Mounted
yeah,
combat would
like
be
when
cool.
you're doing world quests and stuff, it'll be
Hmm.
interesting to see how it develops. And I'll be curious to see how much of it is intended, how much of it is fixed, how much of it is tweaked. Because as with all things that you put out there are pros and cons to both, and
Hmm.
there are some people who like it better than others.
Oh, for sure.
So, with that being said, hey, speaking of that, I did make my 20,000 posts read for Trusted 3.
You read
So I have to
20,000
read this.
posts?
Oh no, I scrolled through a lot. Trust me.
Oh.
But I did make that landmark. So I've only got the 50 days, and I'll have the trust 3 level. And I may never read another forum post again.
And then you can post gifts though, right? Like once you're just level 3?
Yes. Well, and I could actually link to your, do a hyperlink to your website.
Ah, very nice.
I'm so excited.
So thank you for your hard efforts scrolling through those forums. I'm sure there was lots of quality content that you must have scrolled right on by through.
I certainly did. We won't go there, but we should talk about the very, very, very cool new store mount. It is such a midget mount. Have you seen it yet?
So I saw it on the Warcraft Twitter. I have not seen it in game or purchased it myself. So this is the Vulpine Familiar, right? The blue fox mount, rather?
It's a blue fox, and the mount special on it is so awesome, and it pounces.
What?
It is such a midget. Yeah, so if you do mount special, it paws at the ground and then it pounces. It is just awesome. And it's awesome. It flies as well. And it's just such a midget mount.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, Ding Pong says in chat here, it's the first mod they've ever bought from the store. Okay, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good endorsement. I have to check it out here in the store afterwards, and I'm sure my wife will want it, so hopefully. Anyway, that's cool. Yeah, I'll check it out for sure.
Absolutely. So, shall we talk about what we've been doing this week? Because last week, since our last podcast,
Yeah.
8.1 has dropped. And with that, all of the things that new patches come with.
Everything broke. Aren't we? Like, I'm so glad we didn't raid on Tuesday. So the guild is actually raiding tonight. I think they're just finishing up Cahoon right now. Monday. So Tuesday we said, it's gonna be a wash. Everything's gonna break. Things will be just broken all over the place. Not a fun time.
Were.
And they were. And again, that's years of experience telling you, like, don't play on a major patch. Yeah, you could do some normals or heroics, whatever, to screw around with, but don't raid on a major patch day. And then we were missing players on Wednesday, so we said, whatever, it's not worth it. Let's just pull it all on together on Monday. Oh, they're done? Oh, they already finished. That's perfect. They finished with over an hour to spare. Excellent. And now they can go play Mafia.
Awesome. Well, the biggest one, the one that we felt the most profoundly, was Greenwall.
Oh my god.
And it was interesting because you just don't know how much you really use an add-on until it's gone.
That's right.
And
you don't know how much you miss something until it's gone, and you don't have it anymore. And now guild chat is silent, and you're playing an alt in Little Heroes, one of our alt guilds, and all you hear is the 15, 20 people that are online, and not the 200 people that are potentially online between our 4 guilds. So yeah, like I missed it in DJs, like it was just DJ chat, but I'm like, well, where's all my Zeros to Heroes? I miss listening to them and just reading chat.
Well, fortunately, they came up with a fix, and it was fixed. But again, it was another one of those things, and just on a because it broke weak auras, and there were a lot of things that were broken,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll talk about it more later. But I think the thing for me, when you have, so for example, it broke weak auras.
Mm-hmm.
Weak auras has like a huge amount of downloads. I remember I looked at it at the time, but millions of downloads. Why isn't there better communication there? And is it something that we should look at it? And maybe we can, when we're getting further into this conversation, maybe that's something we look at, because the way the Warcraft is designed, we use these add-ons,
Yep.
and I recognize that Blizzard, needs to do their things, but maybe that communication to the add-on providers, especially on things that are going to have a major impact on the game, like WeakOrs with
Mm-hmm.
millions of downloads, where they have an ability to be more prepared, so it makes for a smoother launch. We all use the add-ons. It would be nice if we could log on and they just work.
Yeah, I mean, given that there are so many people testing on the PTR, and as are the Weekora's authors and other raiders, I'm a little surprised at how some things broke, or maybe they didn't make the PTR, and things weren't communicated, as is the theme with most things. So, yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about some of the other good things that came out of patch 8.1, or some of the things that came out of patch 8.1 that were in the notes and that we knew about.
Yep.
So the emissary quest and the Paragon reputation.
Yes, those are great. I'm
Uh,
so glad those things are back. I
Me
wish
too.
I wish they were in from the start though, because I'm a little burned out of doing world quests, especially with the damn artifact knowledge change, or the Azurite knowledge change. I don't feel it anymore. Like, I don't feel the same burn to do all these world quests, because I normally love doing world quests, and even by the end of Legion, I was still doing plenty of world quests because I just like doing them. They're easy to do. They're solo content. I'm listening to some Sparty guy on his stream or his podcast to do my world quest, but I'm just
Well,
not
and
feeling it.
see, bringing back the Paragon reputation where you can get extra goodies has made it so, okay, I'll make sure I'm doing these a little bit better than I have. So it actually was a boon for
Hmm.
me. But I don't want to go too far into some of the other things you mentioned, because those are in the later part of what wasn't in the patch notes.
Hmm.
The next one, and this one's a favorite for Midget and all of the people that raid with her, because I like to pull Mother Trash. You can no longer skip that.
Why would you want to skip Mother Trash? I mean, it can drop loot.
Well, apparently you can.
Apparently, everybody does.
They fixed that. You can no longer do that. And apparently, you can't reset Gahoon either.
Yeah, I don't know. I was doing it. I was actually doing an LFR the other day to test my wife's laptop, and people were saying you can still skip the Mother Trash with a Death Knight or something else. I guess Frost DKs is what people are saying in chat are the only ones that can skip it. So clearly, something else, missed the patch notes where only Frost DKs can
Clearly.
skip Mother Trash.
Well, and here's one that came with a huge amount of response.
Hmm.
And apparently you can no longer delete your Mythic Plus keystones.
Yeah, so this was a huge change, and I believe the backstory was it was an intentional change early on, correct? Or it was not intentional change. I can't remember what they said in the Q&A, but it wasn't thought through. And then suddenly, when they've changed it, and of course without communicating it, it's huge, because there's such tuning issues in a lot of these dungeons, and I think overall, we'll probably do a Mythic Plus podcast. People are really feeling a lot of the burn in these Mythic Plus dungeons because they're just so much more challenging than what we did in the past. And Infested is not a bad affix. Like, that's totally fine to do. It's just everything else seems really challenging, probably because we have Tyrannical early on.
Well, and Shrine is still my favorite.
Yeah. Well, of course.
But and interesting, and we'll talk a little bit about the Warcraft devs' response from the Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the reasons that they listed that they didn't want, or they did remove it, is they want people to go back into those dungeons, and so they've done some tuning, they've fixed some stuff. Yep. I'm still pretty Shrine shy though.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. And you know what? I mean, part of it is a social or psychological thing where, okay, this dungeon's too tough on this difficulty on Tyrannical. it's a dead key, right? So okay, let's delete our key. Let's random and roll the dice for a new key, and that was fine. But really, the underlying issue is the tuning of some of these dungeons, right? And
Yeah. And
yeah,
their big reason for doing it was they want you to go back and try the dungeons. They
hmm
want you to have the variety of them and not just they're trying to avoid another 4 months of Maw of Souls or however long that lasted when everybody was running Maw of Souls 2.
hmm No, for sure, and that's right. You don't want the same like the whole Mechanar thing again, which is what they mentioned in the Q&A, right? You don't want the people running the same dungeon over and over and over, searching for the exact same key because it's the easiest one, the most efficient one, and do that. So, philosophically, they had the right thing. They want people to go back to those dungeons, but they needed some tuning, and they finally the tuning has gone through. So hopefully, people will now start doing some of those tougher keys.
Well, and then you had the advancement of the storyline. Now,
hmm
I haven't done my Horde character yet, so I don't know what they got to do, but I
Probably go
really
you
enjoyed it.
rocks.
What did you think? What did you?
I really liked it. So I did I'm trying to remember now. So I did the trendy one with the Night Warrior. That was pretty cool. I mean, I'm not a Night Elf, but cool storyline. Yeah, I had some issues with it, just in terms of, well, how weak she suddenly is. And yeah, I mean, she's supposed to be this crazy strong person, but I don't want to be one of those single people. Then there was the other storyline with, what was it? The one with the gnomes. There's a Warfront campaign. Yeah, the Warfront campaign one. That one was pretty good too. I enjoyed it. And then of course was the new Warfront. But what about you? So you did the Alliance ones?
I did the Alliance ones. I really enjoyed it. And for me, I was never a big Jaina fan. And the more this storyline develops, the more I'm really enjoying the storyline. I really enjoy the content of the story. And it's gated, so I think that slows it down a bit. But when I get in there and I actually waited a couple of days because it was so buggy,
Mm-hmm.
and you were having trouble turning in quests and all of these things. I wanted to make sure I actually got to enjoy the experience, and I thought it was wonderful, and it revitalized me again. And so I real thanks Taryn Gregory because the
Yeah, what I want to
cinematics are
say.
fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking to the storyline with Jaina and the bombs and the achievement of cool Tyrann's turn away from the fire, whatever, or from explosions, which is Lonely Island song. Um, yeah, I mean, it was super well done, and I'm a fan of this gating. Like, not because I don't play as much as I'd like to, but I think it's the right amount of content on like every other week or two or whatever. If they had a quest like that every couple of weeks, awesome. Like that is content. That is fun. It's got a cool cinematic. It advances the storyline. Great. I'm a huge fan of that kind of gating. Whereas if it was this massive long quest to and it was 15 steps to do on a Tuesday, that'd just be too much for me. So I think it was the perfect
Well,
duration.
and I think so too. And one thing that I noticed, and I wasn't big in lore, especially when I first started playing, and maybe you have a different thought process on this. But I do think that with Legion and BFA specifically, they have done a much better job of getting me as a player engaged in the actual story
hmm
versus just going in and killing quests and doing things. I actually have a story to follow. And I'm enjoying it and I'm enjoying getting there. It's sort of like, watching a show and having the season finale and then you come back to the next season. I'm enjoying having that kind of pacing
hmm
and it does have me more involved in the lore. So I think they're doing a great job with that.
For sure. And so one of the other really cool things, of course, there's been a ton of island changes. I'm not a huge fan of the island changes, just with how the difficulty has ramped up tremendously. Yeah, I like the old islands at the same time. Now we're finally getting more pets and mounts and everything else. But there are new treasure maps from these islands, which give you cool mission tables, or mission table missions, rather. I got the AP one. Apparently, there's one that gives you a mount. There is a Residuum one. What did you get this week? Have you done islands?
I haven't done the islands yet.
It's Monday.
I've had a really busy week, Sparty.
Yeah, I know.
I've had some server issues at work, which took precedence.
But yeah, so when you get to these, I mean, hopefully you get the AP one or the mount, either one. But here's the thing. So initially with these missions when it came out, it was only for a couple hours or something. So now I believe it's 3 days that these missions are staying on. At least mine was staying on for 3 days, as per how long the duration stays before it goes away. Just make sure you have all your followers and champions available to do the mission, so you can hopefully get the bonus out of it.
Well, and and keep in mind everything is developing. I
Hmm.
mean, I haven't done the islands. I heard they were harder. I sort of planned on working on them Sunday and then tonight. I normally do my islands on the weekend, but my weekend got messed up, and with it being the holidays being busier, so I'm not sure I'm going to make them this week, but I can't wait to get in there because if nothing else, there's a lot of new companion pets, and Midgets,
Hmm.
as you know, loves companion pets.
I, I
But
love
hey, let's
I love seeing those
go ahead.
tweets though, where it's Midges has a new pet. Thank you, Iron Dan, or thank you, so and so. Send Midges your pets. Totally. Like, listen, I don't have half these pets, but I send them to Midges because I know sheep will appreciate more than I will. So that's great. And yeah, I mean, you've got APOC and DJs who will just like he loves the crap out of islands, so I'm sure he'll carry everybody through them.
Well, and see, I think, well, and a lot of it too is I enjoy doing them with some of my friends. And so we've all been busy, the holidays are busy. And so I like to get together with a few of my friends and, take my rowdy friends and we go and we mess around in the islands and laugh and joke around because no matter what the content is, so much of the game is about who you're playing with.
Absolutely.
And so if you're just pugging, you're probably not having as much fun. But if you're in, I bet you have more fun doing your island expeditions with Dryads.
Yeah, I mean, she,
I
she hasn't been able to play much, but yeah, I mean, I enjoy doing them with her. I tank, she heals, and we find a DPS to AoE things down. It's been a great system. And so, what else? So let's talk about the patch notes as well, right? So, Wowhead had a post for things that were missing. Was there a lot of things missing in the patch notes? Was there? Maybe yes. I think there were. I mean, given that there's a number of you know changes going on, there's quite a bit that was missing. That's sort of what we're talking about during our podcast tonight. Is a lot of it was you're right. It was a cliff notes for our patch. There's quite a bit that went through. I mean, it was a major patch. At the same time, quite a few things didn't hit the patch notes. Are there some big highlights that
There's absolutely some big highlights, and I think the fact that we have two fan sites actually have web pages of undocumented changes is really something that we need to look at as a community. And I'm going to encourage Blizzard as the content provider, so to speak, to look at it as too, because when you have such things like class changes or one of the big ones, which was the AK, which we'll talk about here in a second, but the AK for your neck, you were no longer, which is the artifact knowledge, which was increasing every week.
hmm
Nothing about it. And I don't know if they thought we wouldn't notice, but people
yeah.
were on for like 5 minutes and they immediately noticed. And it took them quite a while to get the tweet out.
Well, people
Um,
thought it was okay. Well, it's an 8.1 thing. It's going to resume next week, right? And
right.
it's a huge deal because a lot of players planned on not grinding. So, guys, mathematically, it makes a lot more sense to not do any, AP stuff, Azure Power grinding, until sometime in January, because by then, all the levels are going to be so slow where you can do 10 levels in what it would take you to get from like 40 to 41, something like that. So it didn't make as much sense. So suddenly they've cut it off, and now, okay, well, now it's not reducing anymore. I'm behind now because I had planned on grinding it out all in January, and I've got multiple alts, and it threw people off. So it was a huge miss. That being said, out of defense, in Legion we had the exact same thing. It did stop at one point and then it resumed later on. And I can't recall if they had let us know that time either. Do you remember? Does anybody remember if they had let us know?
I think we knew about that one in advance. Well, and Mike at Preach Gaming made it was a sarcastic response, and it
Mm-hmm.
made me giggle at the time because I was annoyed. He said, because when Blizzard put out the tweet a day later, just so you know, it came out on the 12th. He said, cool, at least it was just a minor change and not worth mentioning, announcing properly. He said, can you imagine if guilds had already put in plans and work based on the PTR that's been up for ages? And he says, ha ha, what nerds, and sarcasm.
Yeah.
And he made me chuckle because that was the frustration. And I think that's what we're talking about. And it boils down to communication.
Mm-hmm.
I am a firm and strong and staunch supporter of Blizzard. I think that the devs do a great job. I think that the community managers do the great job. But even within this, I have been really concerned about communication.
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely agree. And there's a lot of things that didn't hit the patch notes, and it is again the largest MMO out there, so there's a little to be said about that. Fine, you cut them a little bit of slack, and it's the biggest game. You're not going to capture every single thing, and I think it's impossible to expect Blizzard to capture every single minor change in the patch notes. It'd be way too much. And I know we had Coffee Bird,
Yeah.
and he had 5 pages of notes. Fine, and we don't need to hear 1% reduction in this. That being said, we do want to hear communicate. Like, we want to hear some of the big changes. Like that, those are some massive changes, or things that should have been on the PTR and shown, right? And I think it's really telling where when some content creators complain, it's the same complainers out there making their videos, whatever bullshit's out there, and like you can't put much stake and much credence behind what they're saying, because a lot of it's for viewers, a lot of it's for attention, a lot of it's for whatever, right? But when some legitimate content creators or method players, or people that are pretty well respected, and I don't mean by the meme lord morons, I mean by the actual community, let's say it's the Bajiras out there, it's the method healers, it's those guys complaining. Well, there's,
Salute.
yeah, when it's Salute, and Blizzard loves Salute, and he's not going to just be their little white knight, but at the same time, like, when these guys are complaining about some of these legit issues, there are legit issues then, right? It's not as if it's, Asmongold complaining about lack of content again. It's, these are other, well-respected guys that, that have some weight behind Blizzard. So,
Well, and when you've got things like class changes,
yeah.
okay, and this is listed on the WowHad
Undocumented
page.
class changes?
Yes, undocumented class changes. We're not just talking about things that are no consequence. The AK game guilds were planning around that. They were planning what the requirements were for their teams. They were planning for the new Tides of Vengeance, and it surprise. But no, these are class changes, and so Blaster Master was nerfed and reduced to a maximum of 3 stacks.
That's a major trait, isn't it? Like, for fire mages? You don't play a mage,
I
but
don't know.
that's a rhetorical question. It is a major fire mage trait, as far as I'm aware, and yeah, like, that kind of change is huge. So yeah, I mean, that's, I mean, okay.
Echoing Blades was nerfed by 75%. We're not even talking about small nerfs. That 75% is a pretty huge nerf. Now, I don't know how much they use it. Reckless Fury, Lord of War, Execute. So we have all of these class changes that weren't in the patch notes.
That's pretty huge. And I'm looking at some of the other ones. Greater Blessing of Wisdom, Greater Blessing of Kings received a new animation. The user pulls out a holy book and casts a spell from the book onto a target. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's not going to break the game, because it's not going to hurt me that much because it's missing. It's only for Rets, right? But at the same time, like, that would be really cool to know, right? Like, there's major stuff where there are major changes to to traits, and we knew there were fire nerfs coming. Fine, but at the same time, it would have been great for everybody to know that there are fire nerfs coming, and it's it's well written. Yeah.
Well, and so there were some others, like Azurite armor can no longer be sold. They want you to scrap it for the new currency.
What? I can't sell it? Okay, that's
Nope.
actually something I didn't know going to this podcast. I thought I could still vendor that stuff. Like, I want gold. I don't need little monolite.
Well, and here's a big one, and this broke every add-on in the game, every updater, your curse updater, all of those things. It broke everyone. The game directory changed. It added another level of retail, probably in preparation for Classic.
Right.
Nobody knew about it.
What the shit?
It wasn't in the patch notes.
Yeah.
The DX12 improvements, They talked about it, but some of those were implemented. Here's one that made midgets mad. You guys are all upset about Azurite gear. I go out and do my first world quest on pet battling because that's where I level all of the pets that I get. And they took me from like 2 to 3K XP to 100. And of course,
That's
that wasn't in the
that's
patch notes
massive.
either.
Like that
That
that's
was a
huge.
huge nerf.
And I did see the message from Kvax because I know he's a big pet battler guy as well, where it's because they made all the pet battle masters accessible now. Is that right? Was that the reason
They
for
did
it?
it for a couple of reasons because they added the new achievements for the pet battling. And so one of the objections in Legion was to get those achievements, you had to get them on the world quest, and you can now do them whether the world quest is up or not. Honestly, it's a good change. However, finding out about it after the fact and after I ask about it versus before makes me cranky.
Yeah, and I guess when we're all looking out from the outside and we're looking at Blizzard to like, hey, when your little programmers make a big change like that, is it so hard to ask to like put a little note there, right? A note in the code and maybe a sticky note. Maybe the sticky notes got lost. And, I understand that some of the reasoning, like, yeah, some of these changes were done in September when, realizations were there, but it got lost. It got lost in, Mike Morham's retirement.
So we did it in September and said, they won't care. They won't notice.
Yeah, I don't know I mean, the thing is, okay, so it happened, fine. It's not important whose fault it is. Let's just make sure it doesn't happen again, right? Like, that's how places should operate and places do operate. It's not a blame game of, okay, well, it was Celestalon, he lost the sticky notes, right? Well, let's fire him. No, okay, so somebody made a mistake, right? Somebody made more mistakes, and let's ensure it doesn't happen again, right? Like, that's the way you need to operate, and let's fix it now. Let's communicate better. The Q&A, tried to explain a few things, which we're going to get into. But yeah, just perpetual improvement, right? Like, people make mistakes, fine, right? It's a huge game, but let's see some trends in communication rather than, the lack thereof.
Well, and I think too, because considering that overall, okay, so, and I'm going to quantify this for me. I'm enjoying the expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I'm not necessarily enjoying, and we covered this in the last expansion, is everybody else not liking the expansion. We covered that. I I have to say that I've probably been more cranky just over the lack of communication because
Mm-hmm.
to me that's very important. And when we get to we're going to talk about Blizzard's response because in the Q&A they actually tackled some of the harder questions. And one of the objections to the Q&A have always been there are a lot of softballs, which they generally are. And I thought they did a really good job of coming in and talking about this. And I'm also going to
Mm-hmm.
add to that that no matter what they said, there's still that group of people that are like, eh. And I discount those people because they go about everything. And you were talking about it earlier about the content creators. Trust me, after spending my working on this trust level 3, I've spent more time on the forums in the last 2 months than I have in the last 10 years.
Uh-huh.
And there's that same group of people that no matter what they do, there's no win for them. They're still going. I mean, they put out the new mount, which is a cool mount. And, well, this is bad timing. The X Pack sucks. They're just trying to make money, and that's not what I'm looking for. I think that our developers, I think that the game, I think that all of those things comes from a very solid foundation.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest objection here is they haven't communicated that well, and that's on them because most of these changes I could adjust to. I may not like them, but knowing about them in advance makes them different. And they said so in their Q&A. And I think that's where we go into this and say, look, I still think they're doing some really good things. I like some of the things that have come out.
Mm-hmm.
Am I 100% sold with everything? No, not really. But if I know about it beforehand, I'm less surprised and I'm less annoyed. How's
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna put you in the hot seat here. So let's say you were Blizzard, and we've been playing this game for a long time, and we had Coffee Bird, which was Kithrak. For those of you that follow him on Twitter, really great guy. He did a lot of the patch notes early on, and it's changed hands a couple times, and it's a collaborative effort oftentimes. And one of the patch notes were absolutely hilarious. For those of you that saw the Fetid Devourer one, thanks Kvax, who's now on vacation. So to put you in the hot seat, how much how much should Blizzard communicate first of all, and how should they do it? What would be one of the best ways, or if midgets were to run Blizzard communication, what would be the best way to communicate to the player base?
Well, I think honestly, in a lot of ways, they're doing it. They added the Q&A. This is a conversation I had on the forums. We didn't see Q&As except at BlizzCon. They're doing them like what, once every 6 weeks, once every couple of months. I mean, we've got regular Q&As.
Mm-hmm.
I would improve the content of them and have them be less softballs. This was one of the best Q&As because it dealt with some of the harder questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see better patch notes. I'm sorry. For a major patch that was 16 gigabytes, it would have been nice, number one, to know it was going to be 16
Yeah.
gigabytes. Okay. And that's their main place that people are going to go, whether they, okay, there's different levels of player interaction. There's a lot of people who don't even get on Twitter and miss most of it or never
For
go
sure.
to the forums. But all of the player base, all of them, no matter who they are, new patch comes out, they go to the patch notes. So if I was going to put my money on any place to communicate with players, it's going to be on those updates or the hot fixes and the patch notes because they read them all the time.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. When you pull up the Blizzard launcher, that's where some of the best stuff is, right? Like you see, so and so content creator, you see what's going on, and those are the best things to do. So that's probably one of the best ways to communicate as well. But the Q&As have been gotten better. Yes, I would agree there. And again, more communication the better. Until people start telling you stop communicating, that's when you've hit it. So that's good. So what else? So we've talked about other content creators complaining. We've talked a little about the Q&A. What about some of the big things in Q&A? And I remember reading the questions. There was one really funny tweet where if your question to the Warcraft devs, the answer is going to be "we're stupid and we messed up," they're not going to read it. Like it's
Right.
like why would you even ask that? Like ask some good questions about if the answer, and the answer should be or is going to be we're stupid and we made a mistake, then there's no point of even airing that question, right? Like get some good.
Well, honestly, did you see Laura's face when Eon teased him about, well, it should have been in the patch notes? They admitted it.
Yeah.
They know it. These guys are smart
Yep.
guys, and there is no way that there's an old YouTube video out by Wow Krender from 2012 about if the player base developed World of Warcraft. And it's funny and it's appropriate even now. They know these things. And if I think every time they have a community outcry, I think we hear them. Sometimes they don't communicate it to us, but I think that we see it in the things that they put in the game. There's a lot of things that are in the game now, including the Q&As,
Mm-hmm.
that came from that feedback. I still maintain that as Warcraft players, we're spoiled because Warcraft developers and their community managers spend more time communicating with their community than any other gaming community that I have seen.
For sure.
And so we need to remember that and sort of be grateful for the good things that we have.
Yeah,
But they
absolutely.
can do better patch notes.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully this was, a good wake-up call. And sometimes people just need a refresher of like, hey, our patch notes suck and we didn't document enough things. We need to make sure we do better for next time, right? And hopefully this is a good reminder of let's keep Blizzard accountable. And Zakul's got a really good question in chat. Well, they should ask questions about how are we going to do this moving forward. And I have a pretty good memory for not important things like this, where there were communication issues years ago. And what was, one of the answers? Well, we're going to give you regular Q&As. We've had regular Q&As. Like, that's what you want to hear, right? Like, what is your plan to fix this? Well, we're going to do this, this, and this. That's what you want to hear, not like, when are Valpera going to become an allied race? Like, I guess lots of people want to know that, but We want to know about the state of the game and how we're going to improve and how we're going to improve communication. Not that, yeah, communication sucks. We get it. Okay. So how is it going to get better? But yeah.
Well, and here's the thing, be problem solvers instead of problem creators. So when you respond to the Warcraft devs and say, I don't like this or would like to have this. So, one of the things that we're working on as recruiters in the Warcraft forums
Mm-hmm.
is really that's different than the actual Warcraft forums. And so, here's some suggestions. Pull us out of it has the latest posts, make it filter so it's not there. Give us some abilities to do some different things like bump our own posts because we want to bump them and we need to because of what we're doing, and provide solutions, not just I don't like this. Well, okay, you don't like this, but what's the solution?
Yeah, and that's the thing where so Midget is saying where she does a lot of the recruiting for Zeros to Heroes and Death Jesters, and there's a recruitment forum that is sort of on the same side as the forums, sort of not, but it needs a lot of other tools. Where okay, well instead of just bitching about hey these forums suck for recruiting, okay, so Midgets goes and gives them ideas. Here are some really good suggestions of this is what we would like. These are tools that could work in the framework of your new forums. Please give us some of the access to some of these things. And the
Well,
new
and something to remember,
yeah.
because sometimes they're going to look at that and go, well, yeah, that's a great idea, but these 10 things will not make it work. And they may not communicate that with us. And one of the things that is a theme of Blizzard not listening, I disagree with.
Oh my god, the
100,
whole not listening thing.
100%.
They're always
They
listening.
listening. They just don't always agree. And I wish we could take that in. Just because I think it's a great idea doesn't mean it's going to work in the existing system,
For sure.
or something that I don't know, because there is so much in what goes into the game development. I couldn't tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
So just because you put an idea out there and they don't do it doesn't mean that maybe it's not on the agenda to do later, but it's not a priority, and or it just isn't feasible. Now, how much do they have to give back and talk? I don't know. I've watched these guys uh, come in and they answer a lot of questions. They really do.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you the flip side of it. So Midgets has an idea, and and they're going to listen, and sometimes they're going to say, this doesn't work, and sometimes they're going to say nothing, and sometimes they're going to say, well, I guess they could ask or could say in response, if this doesn't work because of this coding issue and this coding issue. Midgets has no idea what they're talking about, but random fan of other content creator that has once read a programming book says, "Oh, I'm an expert on this. You should do this instead. You guys have terrible coders," right? And it's a conversation that will just go on endlessly of, okay, well, if you explain to Midgets exactly how this little coding thing works and why it wouldn't work, then people feel obligated that they should get a response as well. And that's not going to happen. I mean, there's not enough hours in the day for all these community managers to respond to everybody's post with all these technical issues, and no, it's not going to happen. So you need to find that middle ground of, hey, that's a great idea, we'll look into it. I had a tweet a while ago where friggin' the guild system, the roster is on a not granular permission setting, which means basically you're either an officer or you're not, and that's a really really bad system. I don't think that anyone has asked for that system. And one of the
there's like just so you know, if you want to get like 2 or 3,000 views, just scroll through that thread because there's like 3,000 posts on it.
Oh, well then, that's great. I mean, they're clearly listening, but like, I would love to get a response of, hey, we're working on it. And I know Yithians or Caden, one of the community managers, he brought it up to the team, and I haven't heard back. I mean, I might have to go ping him like, hey, so what's going on with this? Like, are we gonna get this back? Because it'd be great to have better guild permissions or old guild permissions again. But anyway, closing thoughts.
Before you get to your closing thoughts, one of the things that I put in there was a clip that came from Fat Boss TV, and it was a very interesting conversation about content.
Final boss. This is Word Up. So this is the enhancement shaman. I like this guy. He's a good dude.
Okay, so Final Boss.
Yep.
And so he was talking about the fact that enjoying playing the class is the biggest thing for the people, even over the content. And right now, a lot of them are not enjoying playing their class. And he was talking about, even in WOD, that people would log on because they enjoyed playing the class. And so one of the biggest outcries that we've heard throughout this expansion is that people are not enjoying their classes. And if I was going to say the one thing I would encourage everybody to find better ways to share that is to get that out there, because even during WAD, people were logging in because they enjoyed playing the class. The content wasn't as important. They were sitting in their garrison, but still logging on.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a really short clip, and we'll share it here if you want. Um, but he was talking about enjoying playing your class. And I think at the end of the day, I think that's the major outcry. But the big thing, and the big thing that came from the drop of patch 8.1 for me, was, I think, communication. And I think we find that in a lot of things. What do you think, Sparty?
I mean, it's where issues come from, right? I mean, communication or lack thereof is one of the precursors for any kind of conflict. And I'll give you guys some examples. Midgets and I chat through WhatsApp, but through any kind of internet mediums, it's very difficult to get tone across. So when I say something or when she says something, the other one's like, "Why are they so angry?" Like, and we're just trying to get the actual point across, right? And that's created so many conflicts between me and Midges because we just can't read tone through the internet. So communication or lack thereof, or lack of the best kind of communication is an issue, right? So oftentimes when we'll go back to your guilds, those conversations one-on-one that you can have with them in Mumble or Discord or wherever, those are some of the best conversations you can ever have. And we always encourage you guys to just communicate more, right? In our own raids, I tell my guys, communicate. The best thing you can be yelled at is communicating too much, because communicating not enough, that is going to wipe a raid, right? You had to do a job, you couldn't do it. Okay, cool. So you died and you just didn't do it, or you had something else to do. Cool. But you didn't communicate it. We could have averted a wipe, because you could have said something and we could have had a backup jump in your place, but you decided to say nothing and we wiped. Same thing, and it's a good little analogy of Warcraft, right? You said nothing and now we wiped, right? The Blizzard community or the Warcraft community has wiped. But I guess final thoughts for tonight is a good little quote from George Bernard Shaw, and he says, "The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. If you thought you've communicated, maybe you actually haven't. So communicate some more. More. Encourage communication." Yes, of course, Thal. Encourage lots of communication. That's our motto. With that, guys, thank you for listening. Have a good night. Be excellent to each other. And as always, live your life heroically. Have a fantastic evening. Thank you, Midgets. Have a good night.